There's a point in every person's life where they have to stop and take a long, hard look in the mirror, not just to see what's there, but to truly face what's there. Because the truth is, you can't go from average to fortune unless you're first willing to confront the average. You can't leave a place you're pretending you're not in, and far too many people stay stuck, not because they can't change, but because they refuse to admit where they are. That's where it begins. It's easy to coast when you've convinced yourself that things aren't that bad. It's easy to stay comfortable when you tell yourself you're doing okay. But okay is the silent enemy of excellence. Not bad is the quiet killer of greatness. If you want a different future, the first thing you need is not a new opportunity, it's a new honesty. Brutal, clear, unfiltered honesty. You've got to know your numbers. You've got to admit your habits. You've got to track your time. You've got to take inventory of your mindset. You've got to be willing to see what's not working and stop pretending that it is. The danger of average is that it feels safe. It doesn't scream. It doesn't sting. It doesn't make you panic. It lets you relax and rot. See, life doesn't get better by accident. It gets better by awareness. You can't fix what you won't admit is broken. And that applies to your finances, your health, your relationships, your discipline, your work ethic, all of it. People try to escape accountability by calling it positivity, but there's no growth in denial. Facing the facts doesn't mean beating yourself up. It means waking yourself up. And that wake-up call, while uncomfortable, is one of the greatest gifts life can offer you. Think of it like this. If you were lost in a city and wanted directions to success, the first thing someone would ask is, where are you right now? Because without knowing where you are, it doesn't matter where you want to go. That's how transformation works. Location matters, self-awareness matters, and until you get crystal clear on where you truly stand mentally, emotionally, financially, you'll just be wandering in circles, hoping things improve. Now, some people are afraid to face their facts because they think it'll crush them. But what actually crushes people is avoiding the truth for too long. The weight of postponed problems becomes unbearable. It doesn't disappear. It compounds. But when you have the courage to confront it early, you take your power back. And the earlier you face it, the faster you can fix it. The longer you wait, the deeper the hole, so face it now. Not tomorrow, not when it's convenient, now. One of the greatest signs of maturity is the ability to self-evaluate. It's when you stop blaming circumstances, stop pointing fingers, and start taking ownership. It's when you say, if I don't like where I am, I'm responsible for moving. The world may hand you the weather, but you control your umbrella. Conditions might be tough, but your response is always your own. That's what separates people who break through from those who break down. It's not the conditions, it's the clarity, the ownership, the decision to confront and correct. And here's the real magic. Once you face the facts, they lose their power to paralyze you. What you resist will persist. What you confront, you can change. The moment you say, I'm not as consistent as I should be, I haven't followed through like I promised, I've been distracted, I've been lazy, I've been playing small. That's the moment you start reclaiming your future. You don't improve your life by pretending everything's fine. You improve your life by saying, I know I can do better, and I will. When you face the truth, you don't need to fear failure. Because now, failure becomes feedback. Now mistakes become lessons. Now pain becomes power. The truth you were avoiding becomes the ground you stand on. Because the facts once faced become fuel, they drive you, they sharpen you, they remind you that average is not your home. It's just where you pause. And when you wake up, when you look that truth in the eye, something inside you rises. You get tired of mediocrity. You get sick of playing small, and that frustration becomes fire. It's not about perfection, it's about precision. It's about being precise with where you are, what's lacking, what needs to be fixed, and what you're no longer willing to tolerate. Most people live years behind a wall of excuses, but the person who breaks through is the one who says, "No more hiding, no more excuses. It's time to see it for what it is and change it." That's the beginning of transformation. That's the birth of fortune, not in the applause, not in the breakthrough, but in the moment you decide to be honest with yourself and stop settling for less than you're capable of becoming. There's something powerful about deciding, truly deciding, that your current level is no longer acceptable. Because until you reach that point, until you draw a line in the sand and say, "This is no longer enough for me," nothing really changes. People wait for opportunity, wait for motivation, wait for luck, but change doesn't begin with what's outside of you. It begins the moment you raise your standards, not someday, not when it's convenient, but the moment you say, "This is not who I was born to be." Average doesn't require much. It's a low-maintenance lifestyle. It asks you to just get by. It rewards you with temporary comfort. It doesn't pressure you to stretch, but here's the cost. While it keeps you safe, it keeps you stuck. If you're not demanding more from yourself, then life will never demand more from you. You'll stay where you are, not because you have no potential, but because you never required yourself to rise. Life is always listening to the signals you send it, and one of the strongest signals is the standard you set for yourself. Standards are not wishes, they're not goals, they're not nice ideas you write in a notebook. They are personal, powerful declarations of what you will and won't accept from yourself. And your standards determine everything from the quality of your work to the type of relationships you attract. You can trace every result in your life right back to a standard. If your fitness is poor, check your standard. If your income is limited, look at what you've been willing to settle for. If your habits are inconsistent, ask yourself what you've been tolerating day after day. It's not the dream that's missing, it's the demand. You don't get rich by wanting more, you get rich by expecting more from yourself. You don't become great by hoping things change, you become great by saying, "I will not stay here, I will not settle for this, I will demand more." Because once you raise the bar on yourself, something begins to shift. Your habits change, your mindset sharpens. Your schedule starts to reflect a new level of urgency, and the people around you either rise with you or fall away. That's how you know your standards are real, when they start rearranging your life. The tragedy is, most people never demand more because they fear discomfort. They fear failure, they fear losing people, so instead they stay liked, stay comfortable, stay average. But comfort is not a reward, it's a trap. Every level of your life will require a tougher version of you. And to become that version, you must stretch beyond what's comfortable. You must raise the bar even when it's inconvenient. Because the truth is, raising the bar isn't supposed to feel good. It's supposed to challenge you. It's supposed to expose where you've been slacking. And that exposure is the beginning of excellence. There's a principle that's always in motion. What you tolerate, you teach others to expect. If you tolerate lateness from yourself, your goals learn to wait. If you tolerate laziness, your potential begins to shrink. If you tolerate poor decisions, poor results become your normal. But when you raise the bar, you send a new message to the world and to yourself. You say, "This is who I am now. I don't play small. I don't cut corners. I don't coast." And when that message is clear, the results begin to reflect it. Because life, despite all its complexity, has a simple rule. It rises to meet you at the level you demand from yourself. One of the greatest shifts in a person's life happens when they go from hoping to deciding, from wishing to requiring. That shift flips a switch inside you. It tells your mind, your body, your environment, we're not living like that anymore. And from that day forward, you start to act different. You think different, you stop tolerating weakness disguised as kindness, you stop making peace with bad habits, you stop calling procrastination rest, you strip the excuses and you replace them with accountability. And that's when the climb begins, not because you've arrived, but because you've refused to stay. It's not about being perfect, it's about being committed to better. The person who raises their standards doesn't always have more talent, but they develop more toughness. They might not have more support, but they cultivate more self-respect. And it's that self-respect that pushes them out of average and into excellence. It's the inner fire that says, "I wasn't born to blend in, I wasn't made to coast, I've got something to build, something to prove, not to others, but to myself." And that's what it comes down to. How high are you willing to raise the bar? Not for applause, not for attention, but because deep down you know that the current version of your life is nowhere near what it could be if you simply refuse to settle. There's a temptation in today's world to do everything, be everywhere, and chase 100 dreams at once. The noise is constant, the distractions are loud, and the pressure to keep up can feel overwhelming. But the truth is, the road from average to fortune isn't built on scattered effort. It's built on focused energy. Not just effort in every direction, but intelligent, concentrated, disciplined focus on one thing until you master it, build it, and earn from it. The people who rise, the ones who leave average behind and step into something significant, are not the busiest. They are the most focused. Fortune doesn't come to the person who tries a little bit of everything. It comes to the one who commits to mastering something specific. You don't get rewarded for starting. You get rewarded for finishing. You don't get paid for dabbling. You get paid for delivering value. And real value only comes from depth. From knowing your craft, understanding your field, developing your skills so well that it becomes impossible to ignore you. You don't rise because you're kind of good at a bunch of things. You rise when you become excellent at the one thing that matters most in your lane. The challenge for most people isn't a lack of talent, it's a lack of direction. They have the potential, but it's spread thin. They want to win in business, start a side hustle, build 10 ideas, read 15 books at once, and somehow become a master at all of them by next week. But mastery takes time. Mastery takes obsession. You don't drift into it. You decide to become great at something. You choose your focus, and once you choose, You eliminate everything else that doesn't contribute to that vision. Focus is not just about what you're doing, it's about what you're refusing to do. There's a story being written every day by people who chose to go deep when others stayed shallow. They weren't born with special advantages. They didn't always have more money or better connections. But they chose a path and they kept walking it when it got boring, when it got hard, when others quit. While the average person switched goals every 3 months, they stayed. While others chased trends, they chased mastery. And over time, something happened. Their skills became sharp, their reputation grew, their value increased. And when value increases, income follows. The marketplace rewards focus. If you want to move from average to fortune, you have to ask yourself, what's the one thing I'm willing to build relentlessly? Not half-heartedly, not when you feel like it, but consistently with everything you've got. The man or woman who becomes a master of one thing will always outperform the person who dabbles in 10. Because life doesn't respond to busy energy, it responds to results. And results are the fruit of relentless, disciplined focus. There's a myth that says, don't put all your eggs in one basket. But if you talk to anyone who's built something extraordinary, they'll tell you they put every egg in that basket and guarded it with their life. They became a student of their craft. They didn't just try to be successful, they tried to be excellent. That's what separates a career from a calling, a paycheck from a purpose. It's not just about getting by. It's about getting so good at something that your work becomes undeniable. Focus is a multiplier. What you focus on, you feed. What you feed grows. And when you stay focused long enough, your skills compound, your knowledge deepens, your confidence builds, the distractions start to fade because the vision becomes clearer. You no longer envy what others are doing because you're too busy building what's yours. And that's where the real breakthrough begins, not in chasing everything, but in committing to something until it becomes great. Distraction is expensive. It costs you time, momentum, and clarity. Every moment spent chasing something irrelevant is a moment stolen from your greatness. If you want to build a fortune, you've got to protect your attention like your future depends on it, because it does. You've got to learn to say no to the good so you can say yes to the great. You've got to shut the door on unnecessary opportunities so you can walk through the right one with full focus. Because every yes is also a no, and if you're saying yes to everything, you're probably not going deep anywhere. This is not about being rigid, it's about being deliberate. It's about understanding that you don't have unlimited energy. You don't have unlimited time, but what you do have is the ability to choose where it goes, choose your lane. Commit to your craft. Give it everything you've got, and trust that fortune doesn't show up overnight, but it always shows up for the focused. The world may not notice you at first, but if you keep showing up, keep improving, keep executing, eventually, it will have no choice but to pay attention. Because mastery speaks louder than marketing. Results speak louder than excuses, and the one who is focused long enough becomes the one who is remembered. In the pursuit of success, most people are chasing the wrong thing. They chase money, but not mastery. They want the reward without earning the right, but life doesn't respond to wishes, it responds to worth. And worth is built through skill. If you want to move from average to fortune, you must learn before you earn. Not once, not occasionally, continuously, because in a world that keeps changing, the only security is skill. The only guarantee is growth. You don't rise because you're lucky. You rise because you're capable. We've been told that hard work is enough. But let's get clear. Effort matters, but effort without skill is like pushing a broken-down car uphill. You can sweat all day and still get nowhere. What multiplies your work is wisdom. What accelerates your effort is education. And I don't mean just formal schooling. I mean learning with intention, growing in the areas that matter most to your goals, identifying the gaps between where you are and where you want to be, and then filling those gaps with knowledge, with practice, with refined ability. Your income rarely exceeds your personal development, not because the world is unfair, but because the market pays for value. And value is a byproduct of skill. When you become more valuable, you attract more opportunities. You don't have to chase success when you become good enough that success chases you. The people who make it to the top aren't just trying harder. They've learned how to do it better. They've upgraded their tools. They've sharpened their technique. They've acquired the insights and competencies that separate amateurs from professionals. Look at anyone who's gone from nothing to something, from average to abundance, and you'll find someone who took learning seriously. They weren't afraid to be a beginner. They didn't get stuck in pride. They asked questions. They studied others. They observed patterns, and most importantly, they applied what they learned, because knowledge without application is just entertainment. It feels good, but it changes nothing. It's what you do with what you know that creates movement. Learning isn't a spectator sport. It's a discipline, and it pays well when you treat it like one. Too many people plateau early because they stop learning too soon. They assume because they've graduated, the education is over. But the truth is, the real education starts after school. It's the kind you give yourself. It's in the books you read when no one's grading you. It's in the mentors you seek when no one's watching. It's in the time you spend refining your craft when no one's paying you yet. The highest paid people in the world didn't stop learning at graduation. They doubled down, they built skill stacks. They deepened their knowledge, they evolved while others settled. You've got to make learning a lifestyle, not a last resort. Not something you do when things fall apart, but something you do to keep things growing, because skill is leverage. The better you are, the faster you move. The more capable you become, the fewer doors are locked. Skill is the silent multiplier. It quietly turns ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes. And the best part, it compounds. One skill leads to another. One insight unlocks another level. One investment in yourself creates dividends for years to come. In a world where attention is everywhere and real ability is rare, skill is the new currency. Flash fades. Hype disappears, but excellence lasts, and excellence is built, not born. Every hour you put into learning today becomes momentum for tomorrow. Every new skill you develop becomes another brick in the foundation of your fortune. The world is hungry for people who are not just enthusiastic, but equipped. Not just motivated, but trained. When you learn, you build confidence, and confidence is magnetic. People can feel it. They trust it, they pay for it. Learning also brings freedom. It liberates you from dependence. When you have skill, you don't have to beg for opportunity. You create it. You don't wait for permission, you earn influence. Skill makes you mobile, it makes you adaptable, it allows you to step into new arenas and hold your own. Without it, you're always at the mercy of someone else's decisions. With it, you're the one who decides. That's the power of becoming a skilled individual. It gives you options, and options are everything. You don't have to be the smartest. You don't have to be the fastest. But you do have to be willing. Willing to learn, willing to grow, willing to stretch your capacity and become more than you were last year. Every breakthrough you want has a learning curve. You've got to be patient enough to climb it. You've got to be disciplined enough to keep going when it's slow. Because growth is never wasted. Even if the results don't come instantly, the person you're becoming will outlast any setback. You can't cheat the process, but you can accelerate it by becoming more skillful. Every time you invest in learning, you're planting seeds for a harvest you haven't seen yet. And when those seeds grow, they produce results that look like luck to the untrained eye. But you'll know it wasn't luck. It was preparation. It was hours behind the scenes. It was choosing to grow when no one was forcing you. It was staying sharp while others coasted. That's how you move from average to fortune, not just by working harder, but by working smarter, wiser, and with skills that demand respect and reward. In the beginning, motivation is easy, the vision is fresh, the energy is high, everything feels possible. But here's the truth, the spark fades, the rush of excitement eventually wears off, and when it does, most people stop. They slow down, they drift back to comfort, not because they lack potential, but because they never developed the habits to carry them through the quiet seasons. Anyone can get excited once, few can stay disciplined daily. If you want to go from average to fortune, you have to build habits that don't rely on hype. You need a system that works on your best day and your worst. The difference between someone who stays average and someone who builds fortune isn't always massive talent or even major opportunity. It often comes down to who does the right things long enough without needing constant inspiration to do them. Motivation is like fuel, it runs out, but discipline is like a generator. It keeps going, and habits are what keep that generator running. They don't just guide your actions, they shape your identity. They form the structure that supports your dreams, one brick at a time, day after day. People underestimate the power of small, repeated actions. They're always looking for the breakthrough, the big win, the dramatic shift. But breakthroughs are rarely sudden. They are the visible results of invisible routines. They are the payoff for days, weeks, even years of doing the work when no one's watching. There's nothing glamorous about waking up early to write, study, train, or plan, but that's where the fortune is built, in the habits that stack over time. You may not see results today, you may not see them tomorrow, but keep going long enough and results become inevitable. Habits are like compound interest. They don't seem impressive at first. In fact, in the early stages, they can feel frustrating. You show up, you put in the effort, and it looks like nothing is changing, but every day you follow through, you're making a deposit. And those deposits start to build on each other. Momentum builds, skill sharpens, confidence grows. And one day you look around and realize you're not the same person you were when you started. You've transformed not by accident, but by design. The key is to design your life in a way that makes success automatic. That means removing friction. That means making the right decision the easy decision. That means building an environment that supports your standards, not sabotages them. If you want to be consistent, you have to stop relying on willpower. Willpower is weak. It comes and goes. But structure is strong, routine is reliable, and if you build the right systems, you don't have to decide every day whether to do the work. You just do it because it's who you've become. One of the greatest misconceptions is that high performers are more motivated than everyone else. The truth is, they've just built better habits. They don't wait until they feel like it. They do it because it's scheduled. They don't skip because they're tired. They show up because it's part of their identity. They've built discipline into their rhythm. That's what separates them, not inspiration, but consistency. And consistency creates stability. It builds trust with yourself. When you trust yourself to follow through, you become unstoppable. You no longer need permission or applause. You become self-driven. Too many people are addicted to hype. They get excited by every new idea, every trend, every flashy concept, but they never stick long enough to master anything. They start strong and finish nowhere, but fortune doesn't reward the starter. It rewards the finisher. And finishing requires stamina. It requires the ability to keep going when it's no longer new, when no one is clapping, when the results are still miles away. That's what habits do. They carry you through the valley between your start and your success. You've got to fall in love with the process. Not just the outcomes, not just the goals, but the daily actions that create those outcomes. Because when you love the process, you stay committed even when the results are delayed. You don't quit because it's hard. You push because it's worth it. You wake up and execute not because it's exciting, but because it's essential. That kind of consistency isn't loud. It's not dramatic. It doesn't always get attention, but it gets results. Quiet, steady, undeniable results. And here's what happens when you keep showing up. Your habits start working for you. They build momentum. They create flow. You stop wrestling with discipline and start living in alignment. You begin to trust the path. You become the kind of person who doesn't just set goals. You hit them, not once, but repeatedly, because habits make success repeatable. They turn breakthroughs into baselines, and they make fortune not just possible, but predictable. Building those habits takes time. It takes patience. It takes the humility to start small and the maturity to stay consistent. But every time you honor your routine, you're telling your future, I'm serious. You're laying the foundation brick by brick, not for a quick win, but for a solid life. And when others wonder how you did it, they'll look for a secret. They'll look for the moment everything changed, but you'll know it wasn't one big moment. It was 1,000 small ones. 1,000 decisions to stay the course, to do the work, to follow through, not because it was easy, but because it was who you decided to become. The journey from average to fortune is not about luck, nor is it reserved for the chosen few. It's built through decisions, carved through daily discipline, and sustained by principles that never go out of style. You don't need a perfect background. You don't need every advantage. What you need is clarity, commitment, and character. Decide exactly what you want, and then back that decision with behavior. Stop chasing everything and master one thing. Depth will take you further than distraction ever could. Invest in yourself like your future depends on it, because it does. Learn relentlessly, sharpen your skills, and earn the right to rise. And when the hype fades, let your habits carry you. Let your consistency speak when motivation goes silent. This is how fortunes are built, not in grand gestures, but in quiet resolve. In focused effort, in doing the right things long enough that the results become undeniable. Don't wish for success, work for it. Don't wait to be discovered. Develop yourself so well that you can't be ignored. The world doesn't owe you anything, but it will reward value. So become valuable, become dependable, become excellent, and remember, fortune doesn't show up for those who dabble. It shows up for those who decide to be uncommon, decide to rise above average, decide that this is your time, and then build the habits, skills, and focus to make that decision a reality. Because the greatest transformation begins not in your circumstances, but in your standards, and the day you raise your standards is the day you start your journey to fortune.